Hello and welcome to the Sunday Chat. I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer. This is the Sunday Chat for the 20th of June 2021. Father's Day, in actual fact. Yes, Father's Day here in the UK. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And of course to me, because I am a father as well as a grandfather. So this is the Sunday Chat in which I can bring you up to date with the things that have been going on and the things that we will be looking forward to. And as ever, as I do my little Sunday Chat, I've got a list of bits and bobs to have a chinwag with you. So I hope you have a lovely Father's Day and that all the dads can get their feet up, put their slippers on, pipes in their mouths and relax for the day. Probably won't be what I'll be doing. I'll probably be dashing about doing bits and bobs and keeping the channel going. But, you know, that's the life of the old Vobie. In fact, next week coming up, now I'm not quite sure when, but there might be some holes in the output. Now, I apologise for that because I pride myself on getting a video out every day, but there might be a couple of holes because I'm going up to Oxfordshire. Going up to Oxfordshire to interview the author of this book, The English Landscape in the 20th Century, Trevor Rowley, or Rowley, depending on how you pronounce his name. This is a publication that came out about 15 years ago, and it looks at the landscape of the 100 years from 1900 to 2000. And in it, he goes through all the developments that have happened and have, in my opinion, in many ways, destroyed the wonderful landscape that we have in the name of progress. And I appreciate that it is a double-edged sword because we wouldn't be where we are today without all the roads, without the airports, the car parks, the new towns, and all sorts of bits and bobs, the seaside conurbations, and all of that, and all in the name of progress. We wouldn't have all the wonderful supermarkets and the monoculture and all the delightful lack of wildlife and things like that. We've got so many good things, of course, but the price of it has been fairly enormous, and particularly to the landscape, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop. So I want to talk to Trevor Rowley about what he found out when he was discovering that, if there were any surprises, what he thinks of all the developments, what he thinks was perhaps unnecessary, and what perhaps is necessary, and get some hints and tips at looking at the landscape and to see where things used to be. So it'd be an interesting interview. He also wrote a book called Villages in the Landscape about villages and the history of the village. So I shall be quizzing him about that. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So I think that's sometime next week. But I'll keep you alerted as and when that happens, he says, looking for somewhere to place the book. I'll shove it over there for the moment, which is great. Now, you may remember that this week I added to the channel some of my VHS snippets from some of my earlier work, which I'd found on VHS, and very kindly Paul Rampton had encoded or digitized for me. And I did a little video about the various bits and bobs that I'd done, the pilot for Snug and Cozy, the footage on 16mm that I had videoed on a VHS camera of that film A Cry for Help that I had made in 1992, I think it was. Percy Peevely's World of Cartoons, some of the links that I had also taken a compilation of, and things like that, and the original Snug and Cozy pilot. All good stuff, and of course the Tarmac film. Now, the Tarmac film is a complete thing. People may want to watch the whole thing, they may not, but what I'm aiming to do is to, I've got to just change the MP3 footage that I have now from interlaced footage, this is a bit technical, I know, and a bit boring, but to progressive, so that it just tidies up the footage just that little bit. And then I will upload it, and it'll be on the YouTube channel, presumably, and you'll be able to watch it if you so wish. But thank you very much for your comments. It's been interesting to see how people have taken to some of my earlier work. It's fascinating reading what you make of it. And of course, I'm still going through in my story that story about Snug and Cozy and how it went from an embryonic idea to setting up a production company, filming it all in 16mm on location, and then eventually selling the concept to Scottish Television, who made and produced 2 series which were shown on the ITV network in 1996 and 1997, respectively, in the autumn. And it was in 1997, as we were, and you'll hear about this, as we were putting them out, that suddenly there was a change in the schedule, which was a bit of a shame, because Diana, Princess Diana, had that horrific accident and died. And I believe it was on one of the nights or the afternoons that Snug and Cozy was going out. And because of that, they shunted the day, which I think we only had about 4 episodes to go out, but it was pretty much a shocker because people get used to watching television programs on the certain days, and it made a huge difference to us, to our ratings. And then there was a political manoeuvre which prevented us from having a second series. This political manoeuvre, which I will explain in the story, had nothing to do with us, but as a consequence, us and a number of other titles that were being made by Scottish Television were just not recommissioned. And it just goes to show, again, how much infighting and backstabbing goes on in the television industry. So I should be talking about that in the next episode. By the way, talking of comments and things, thank you very much for the comments that I've been getting and the praise and the compliments, really, of my new glasses. They're working fine for me. I love them. They look very stylish. I know they are Ray-Bans. Somebody said, you must be very rich to afford Ray-Bans. And the truth is, I have to say, I got a lovely discount from Specs in Kensington Gardens. They're a very nice company, so I'm more than happy to recommend them. They did a marvellous job on my glasses, very stylish. They looked after me, and they fitted out the special lenses and the coatings so that you can see my eyes, even my dodgy eye. So I thoroughly recommend them. But yeah, thank you so much for the comments. That's been really, really kind, and I appreciate that. Now, I'm filming this on the Saturday. This goes out on the Sunday. I've been out today with a lovely chap called Steve, and we've been walking around an area between South Chailey, East Chiltington, and Plumpton Green, which is in East Sussex, just north of the South Downs, in that corner, in that sort of triangle. And I believe that Eton College, Eton, in which the Prime Minister went to school at, Eton, very famous public school. They've got land. They've got land down in East Sussex, and they're intending to build a whole new town in East Sussex. It's about 400 and something acres of land they've got, and they want to put in 3,000 new houses over 20 years. Now, I go and look at the landscape, and that'll be out, hopefully that'll be out on the following day to this video. So in theory, as I record this, it'll be Monday's video, and we go and look at the landscape in that area and talk over what the plan is and what an alternative to it could be. There is a working group that are trying to avoid this, and you know that I'm very anxious and I get very worried when I see new builds going up on farmland. My attitude is that whilst we do, and I understand people do need to have houses to live in, farmers and the land that is being farmed is held, well, farmers are the custodians of the land. I think it's, I personally think it's very important to take the attitude that the land that is farmed for food, which is a base need for us, is something that people have a great privilege in order to do and grow. It may not seem like it, may seem backbreaking and a non-thankful task. We've got so used of taking food for granted. But I think the provision for growing and keeping people alive is a privilege. And farmers who have, whether they've bought the land or whatever, they have a duty to look after that land, not just for them, but for future generations, not just their kids or potential people who will buy it, but for tens of years, centuries, thousands of years ahead, that this land should be sacrosanct. Up until this point, that they've had a privilege to be able to farm that land, and that land has been available to be farmed. And I think it's just abhorrent that somebody can take what is farmland that has been farmed for centuries, that they're the custodians of, and then sell it, prevent it from being farmed for future generations. It doesn't seem right. It doesn't settle with me at all that somebody can say, no, from now on, I'm the one that's going to make the decision and take a profit and not let anybody in the future farm on this piece of land. I don't think that should happen. Anyway, in the video, I go round. I'm not taking so many sides, but I'm listening to the argument and posing a number of questions. Also, you may remember maybe a week or so ago, I was sent this gimbal to try out, the Smooth QE it's called. I haven't yet had a chance because I mainly film on cameras and not phones, but I'm hoping to get the lovely Julia to try this out, and we will make a film about it and then show the results, because I know that there are people out there who have phones and would like to be able to film things a bit steadier. Although, of course, some of the more modern phones, I'm absolutely staggered how good the stabilization is that's built into a lot of these mobile phones. Even better than the expensive, top-of-the-range mirrorless and DSLR cameras. It staggers me that the DSLR cameras seem to be struggling, whereas the mobile phone cameras, whereas the camera is only a small part of this mobile computer, seem to be striding in advance. The quality of the picture may not be as great, but the stabilization in some of them is pretty impressive. But we will try out the gimbal and give it a whirl, just in case somebody's got not quite a top-of-the-range phone and would like something that will improve their filmmaking, and we will do that. You will notice that this week we also put out a video on the Greensand Way in Surrey with Matthew Holdsworth. It was great to meet up with Matthew. We haven't done one for so long, I think since the COVID thing started, which is a real shame, because I want to get further down there, but there will be more. I shall make sure that I grab hold of Matthew's arm and twist his arm and say, come on, we're going to get out and get some more of this wonderful and curious long-distance trail done. Although I have heard, this is just rumours of course, that although we're supposed to be now, we've been pushed back to open up on July the 19th, the rumour mills is going that isn't going to happen, and that a leak, I think, from Whitehall, I heard, is going to say that will continue to stay in this quasi-lockdown, and then by the time we get into the winter, we'll be back in another full lockdown. I don't know how true that is, but I'm really hoping that we can get out of this stupid COVID situation and get back to being able to be free to travel about and make these videos for your entertainment as much as we can. So it's lovely to work with Matthew. I'm also hoping to work again with my very good friend Mark English, who is also based in Surrey and has his own channel. You can check him out, Mark with a Q, English, and hope to team up with him and go on some walks and some historic exploration. So hoping to get back into some of the stuff that we used to do before the COVID thing came running down. You'll notice also in this week, I managed to get out on another Sussex border path or border walk. It's not so much, there is a Sussex border path. I'm not so much following the official path. I'm following my own as near to border walk. And we got one out this week. I'm looking at the maps to try and work out when I can get the next one out. So thank you very much again for all the wonderful comments that you make regarding the Sussex border walk. I do enjoy it. It's a slightly different style from my other videos, and that they sometimes can take a bit of time to put together, but I will do my best to keep them coming. And finally, in today's little Sunday chat, I think it was Ian Dance. I'm not sure. If it wasn't, then do let me know who it was, who sent me in the £2 Tram. This is a fairly recent book, but it's set in just before the war and then during the war. It's a lovely, charming story. It's almost like a children's story because it starts with two kids who grow up in the story. And a lot of it is based, funnily enough, in Worthing. Now, the reason I'm mentioning it here is, A, to say thank you for sending in the book, and I'm very close to the end of the book. It's a very charming little story. But I do wonder about the author and how, although he's set in places and he names the places, there's some interesting facts which are really peculiar to the book. For example, he talks about the second pier in Worthing, in which these two boys run a tram service between the second pier and Grand Avenue. And then he talks about a big department store that was at the bottom of Grand Avenue. Well, as far as my knowledge is, there never was a department store at the bottom of Grand Avenue. And I think there was a plan at one point to put in potentially another pier, but it never materialised. But if you know different, I'd be fascinated to know. Maybe I've got my facts wrong. But it's a lovely story. It's very charming, beautifully written, and I recommend it. But don't take the history too seriously. That's what I would say there. Well, there we go. That's me up to date with another Sunday chat. These weeks, they go through so jolly well fast, don't they? Just to let you know, of course, I do have the Vobes Show channel. Very different type of entertainment. It's much more silly, wacky. It may not be your cup of tea, and I appreciate that not everybody enjoys it. It's a bit more zany than the Bald Explorer. It's an interactive live show that goes out on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 o'clock on its own YouTube channel called The Vobes Show. Very often the lovely Julia is on the show with me. We've got the new studio here, and I'm hoping as we get towards the autumn that we can get some guests in to talk about a whole range of different things in which you can interact with the guests live with the live chat feature, ring in, and indeed send videos in. So that's just something to bear in mind. Of course, I've got my daily podcast, The Naked Englishman, which is found at nakedenglishman.co.uk. Again, slightly different because I do speak my mind, and sometimes I can be a grumpy old git on it. So I'm just warning you for that. Anyway, you can find all that. But thank you so much for watching this. I hope that you have a great week ahead. Happy Father's Day if you're watching on the Sunday, and I will catch up with you soon. Don't forget to follow, like and subscribe. Give us a donation if you enjoy the content. It really does help put diesel in the van, and I'll see you out and about. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.